One, two, three, action.
Coming to you today. Why do men have a hard time communicating?
Actually like the first one.
Why?
You like the first one?
All you have to do is communicate.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that we talk about in the parenting class, in the fathers parenting class, is relationships. I think it's the basis of all. I think it's the basis of all life if you really think about it. And so one of the things that we're thinking about is, or that I was thinking about is, why don't we talk about communication? What is it? What does it mean? What does it look like? And when you think of it like that, Greg and Sam, I mean, there's just so much. We can go a whole month, maybe even a year, just talking about that.
Books are written, right?
And so one of the titles that I had for this one was communication skill number one, and I don't necessarily have a list of number 1 through 100 or whatever, but it was just an idea of thinking like, this is probably the most important one. And the most important skill in communication is listening. Listening is the most important. And for the young fathers out there, what that means is pretty much setting some time to focus on your partner. Sitting down, turning off the video game, turning off the music, looking straight at the person and giving them your undivided attention. And most importantly, as sometimes I would say to my kids and also my team whenever I'm coaching, is mouth closed, ears open. You don't say that, but I mean that's what you're thinking. My mouth is closed, my ears are open. The challenge with that, the challenge with that is, and I'm speaking for myself, and I think speaking for a lot of them and others in general, is that when you're saying something to me and I hear something that triggers a thought in my head or an answer in my head or a reply in my head, I want to answer right away, or I want to reply right away. Because in my mind, I think if I don't answer right now, then I'm going to forget a minute or 30 seconds later or whatever. And then it gets, that's very difficult for me to do as a man, as a father, as a husband. And so one of the challenges that I have is focusing and just paying attention to the person without reacting in the middle of their sentence. So what do you guys think?
Well, I mean, that's why the person that kind of designed us and put us together and molded us, he gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. In other words, the only one that shuts is this one. So in other words, what you're saying is true. The key to communication is being able to listen and talk less.
So it's interesting.
The thing is that, that's what they even say.
Hold on, so let me get in here too, because
my turn.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talked about before, when we talked about, hey, when we're doing these videos, are we going to interact or are we going to let each one take its turn? And I think we all agreed, like, just let it flow, just be natural. So sometimes it feels natural just to butt it, I'm going to say butt in or interrupt and talk. So that's what this whole video is about, communication and listening. But go ahead, guys.
Well, I was going to say, it amazes me. My kids never talk when I want them to talk. And when I want the quiet, they never are quiet, right? So I think it's a challenge, right? So we live by that example. When my son is talking to me, it's really important that I'm listening. When my daughter's talking to me, then I'm listening. So when my turn comes, I can point that out to them.
So let me ask you this question.
When I used to work for big corporations, they would train us on how to take care of a call. So, and then the way they taught you is that in the series of a call, regardless if it's a minute 5 minutes, 10 minutes. They want to make sure that the customer is doing 70% of the speaking, and you're doing only 30% of the speaking. So in other words, it's all about not only listening but reiterating. So the person that's actually being the one who's communicating to you, by reiterating it, it tells them, oh, okay, good, they're listening to me. So that's a huge skill that I think most people need to work on. And then that's something that we as facilitators, we definitely want to share with all of our clients, because to me, communication is like the key to anything. The thing is, obviously, if I don't communicate with my boss, more likely I'm not going to have a job. If I don't communicate with my wife, more likely I'm no longer going to have a wife. If I don't communicate with my children, aren't going to count on me. They're not going to look up, look to me for support or for anything else like that. So yeah, so communication is key.
So Sam, if you're talking to a young father and you're trying to tell him, I know there's a whole lot, the answer can go on and on, but if you were just to try to tell them, hey, give them instructions on whatever comes to mind on your idea of how to listen or what to do to listen, what would you say right now in a couple of sentences? What would you tell that young father?
Be present.
Be present
in the circumstance and the situation that you're in.
What does be present look like? What does it mean?
It means that when you're face to face with somebody, don't be distracted, by looking over their shoulder because you're trying to watch the game and she's talking to you. Well, honey, we need to do this. And you're like, oh man, I said, I'm talking to you, honey. Oh,
shoot, like a commercial, Sam.
That's not. That is not listening to that.
Hey,
person.
Sam, that reminds me of that movie. I think it was called The Best of Times with Robin Williams and Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Where they're with the girls and there's the football game in the back and they go and they're like,
just like
the
that.
Girls are like, hey, what are you doing? She was like, oh, those little hands. So that movie is a good analogy right there. I believe it's called The Best of Times. But okay, so you're saying set that time, focus on them, don't get distracted. What about you, Greg? What is some instructions that you would tell a young father? What would you tell them?
Listen to their story, ask questions, and then repeat some of that story back to them. Because as they get older, you're going to want to know what's going on in their world.
So do you listen for a minute?
I want to know if you like
boys. Do you listen for 5 minutes?
Do
you listen for a minute? Do you listen for 2 minutes? If you listen for 5 minutes, notice I just interrupted you.
Well, I think you have to listen. It's building a skill, right? In the beginning, it will only be a minute or two. As the kids get used to telling stories, then it might be 10 or 15 minutes. I mean, they're the most precious thing in my life. If I can't find time for them, then there's a problem. And I got to.
Can you give us an example of the last time you listened to somebody?
Listen to somebody?
Yeah.
Like this morning.
He never listens to me, so.
And my son's like, Dad, you're not giving me up at 7 o'clock. I want to get up at 7 o'clock. I'm like, school doesn't start until 8:40. I know, but I don't want to rush. And I'm like, well,
wow, that's
3 times to get you up. Right? And that's a conversation. And you weren't getting up, but now he's going to join me. Okay, thank you.
Hey, but that's cool that he wants to get up at 7. I just want to point that out.
He's dedicated. I like that. All right. Well, we better
okay, well, let me
Let
go ahead and say
9 minutes, guys. Like, wrap it up, Alex.
I'll say the last one. And like I said, there's many answers to this question. But what I would tell the young dads out there is to set an appointment. And what I mean by that is if your partner wants to talk about something and you're not ready to focus and listen at that time, ask them if we can set up a time to talk about it. So like, let's say today is Tuesday and my wife comes in and she wants to talk about something. I'm in work mode. I'm in my work box. I could tell her, hey, how about 7 o'clock tonight after dinner we talk? And so that gets me mentally prepared to say, okay, at 7 o'clock, I know I got to spend, focus for an hour and listen to to what the whatever the topic or discussion that she wants to talk about.
And enjoy every moment of it, right? Ed?
There you go. There you go. Hey, because that's a good point, because in the end, that's what makes a healthy relationship.
Yeah,
And that's going to make you a lot happier.
absolutely. So my name is,
Peace out, everybody.
I'm glad that we're here for Father Time. Please join us for another segment. This is Greg.
Samuel.
Peace out.
Peace out. And you guys take care and enjoy. Men, we need to communicate to the people in our lives. When's the last time you really talked to your kids? Happy life, happy wife, lots of communication.
Yeah, that was much better.
Yeah.